everyone, Adam here, So Wizards Podcast, obviously. I'm going to try something a little different. I had the absolute blast of a time going down to Galaxy's Edge in Universal, or Disney World, Orlando. It's awesome. Not to bury the lead here, but it's awesome. If you're a Star Wars fan, you gotta go. I guess the one in Los Angeles is just as good. From what I read, it's a little bit smaller, but they're doing some things that the Florida one aren't. I know Din Djarin's walking around, Fennec's walking around, Boba Fett's walking around. You can see Grogu there, where the one in Florida is more based on the timeline just after Episode 8. But just being in the world, just walking around, not even doing the attractions or the food or the shops, just being there. Look at the pictures, ignore the crowds the best you can. Look at the pictures and the detailing, and everything has that awesome Star Wars kind of aged on purpose patina to it. Nothing felt cheap, nothing felt out of place, nothing felt like an afterthought or something just kind of, oh, but just put that over there. Everything was meticulously planned out and very well stationed. Going around the area, you could use your phone as an app. It made it like a Star Wars data pad. And there was QR things with little puzzle type interactions to do on your phone, and then the world would react around it. I didn't do a lot of that, but there was people running all over, spending the whole day doing it, and it's cool. And you kind of get like a point-based system. You don't really get anything for it, but it is fun to do, and it kind of gives you an excuse to explore the nooks and crannies of the world. One thing I really liked, and Disney did a great job with this, is when you're in Galaxy's Edge and you look around, you just see Galaxy's Edge. Of course you see the other people there with you, so that takes you out of the immersion a little bit, even though you're all referred to as off-worlders, so you're kind of this other category for the people who are supposedly living their lives in Galaxy's Edge. Disney calls their employees the crew members. But if you look at the pictures with the sky and the spires, because this is Black Spire Outpost, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Galaxy's Edge, you can't see the park around it. You can't see the tops of roller coasters. You can't even hear the park around it. You're not hearing rides going off. You're not seeing tall towers or buildings or anything like that. It's all just Star Wars. The only things that I saw that weren't just flat out Star Wars, obviously aside from the other patrons, was small things. Forks and spoons in the dispenser there, that was pretty obvious. And the exit signs and fire alarms, obviously for fire code you couldn't. But everything else was Star Wars. They had custom manhole covers, custom outlet covers. The tile in the bathroom was custom made to make it feel like something, not just a regular public bathroom. The crew members, the employees, could not have been better. Everyone was super polite. Everyone was super positive. I'm sure they're slammed all day, especially in the heat. They're staying in character, and I don't mean to oversell it. It's not like each of them had a special identity and a backstory and they're selling you on some narrative, but just little things. Money is set in credits. The credit card processing machine was a droid. Oh, sometimes the droid gets hung up. You put your chip in too soon, you confuse the droid. Little things like that are kind of these fun little cutesy touches that, you're in a theme park. It's not going to fool you that you're not, but it feels as awesome as it can. This is something else along with the little details. I'm watching the video as I talk, so sorry if I'm jumping around, but that's a Lothcat sleeping, and it's a little animatronic. It's just there for pictures. There's no other reason for it than that, and there's a lot of those cool little touches that, here's a little bit of fan service. Here's something to make it that much more magical and that much more fun. And they really nailed it. The aging on the statue there, it all looks like it came off of a movie set, if not out of the Star Wars universe. As far as the things to do there are a couple rides. I'll get into those in a bit because I took pictures and actually quite a bit of video from the Smugglers Run one. But this is, that's Ronto Roasters. It's a restaurant where you don't need a reservation to go up. You kind of go up, it's a food counter, and honestly, the food wasn't that bad, and it was the best food we've had in the parks. We did 2 days at Disney and 1 day at Universal. There'll be more videos coming. But right there at the counter, I got a sliced pork wrap for $6, and it was really legitimately good. If a restaurant near my house was selling it, it would be something I'd get fairly regularly. My wife, vegetarian, went with the zucca wrap, which is a zucchini wrap, chickpeas, things like that. Again, it was like $6 or $7, and she loved it, and she usually has a hard time finding food to get, especially on the cheaper side, being a vegetarian. It was actually the best food we've had in the theme parks, and we also had the blue and green milk, and that's coming up as well. Sorry, I'm trying to stay organized with this, but watching the video as I go, it's just so fun revisiting it. The ships were life-size. You'll see later in the video, they light them up at night. There's some audio playing from the shuttle, like Imperial First Order transmissions. There's some ship sound effects without making it too in your face or taking you out of things too much. Talked about the restaurant a little bit. We just ate at Ronto. I just ate the Ronto wrap. There's also the cantina. We unfortunately couldn't get reservations. Actually, here's a big traveling tip. If you are going and you're planning it in the future, which I'm sure you are, with flights and hotel and all that, make your reservations as you book. We booked in April. We went in June. I couldn't do the custom-built lightsaber, and we couldn't get into the cantina. Those are the two big things we missed out on, so make sure you book as soon as possible. Even schedule out a little bit further if you can to get those bookings, because it's not something that you can do every day. I mean, if you live in Orlando, then great, good for you. You can hit it the next time if you have a season pass or whatever, but big travel tip, book as far in advance as you can, get those reservations down as far as you can. Here we go. Here's me and my wife. We had the blue milk and the green milk. They're essentially fruit smoothies with coconut milk and things like that. They were both good. I preferred the green, as did my wife. Again, those cups were $5 or $6 each. Really good stuff, especially on a hot day. It was like 97 that day, so to have a fruit smoothie was really good. They didn't sit heavy, and while it was just a fruit smoothie, you didn't taste it, oh, that's strawberry banana, I've had this a million times. You couldn't quite nail down all the taste because it's a really interesting combination. This right here is the entrance to the Smugglers Run ride. I do have the audio for it, but I didn't want to put all the audio and kind of spoil the experience for you if you plan on going, so I'll just talk over it. If I hear enough feedback, I can post the original with the audio, but the Hondo animatronic there, as long as all the animatronics, and there's not a ton of animatronics in Galaxy's Edge, but the ones they have are amazing. If you've been to Disney and you did something like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's clever, it's kitschy, it's fun, but the animatronics are dated, and seeing what they could do with Hondo and Doc Ondor, and there's an Admiral Akbar, there's just blanked on the species name, Amon Calamar, later on, they're smooth and precise and lifelike, and it's awesome. And speaking of awesome, what you're just seeing, I mean, these pictures, that video, stepping into a recreation of the inside of the Millennium Falcon literally gave me chills just to be in this place that I've been seeing in my life for 30 years and never really existed for the public before a few years ago. Absolutely incredible. Everything looked right. Everything felt right. Again, obviously, ignore the other tourists the best you can, but it was just incredible being in there. I guess slight spoiler warning, if that you can say that for a theme park ride. This is the Smugglers Run ride. I record the whole thing from my point of view, so there is a little bit of wobble. I'm holding the phone with one hand because I had to interact. How the ride works is there's 6 people in the cockpit, so the cockpit's a little bit elongated from the movies, I believe, or they at least added 2 more chairs. But there's the pilots, the 2 kids in the front there are piloting. The 2 middle seats are the gunners. My wife and I were in the back as the engineers. You don't really get to pick. They assign it for you because I'm sure there'd be a lot of fighting and this and that. I'm guessing they always pick kids to be the pilots because that's what we saw from the groups going in. And let's be real, it's Disney World, it's Star Wars. Kids should come first. They should get this awesome experience. But I cannot deny the fact that when you're in there with the full immersion sound effects, and it's one of those 4D rides where you feel the movement, you're being jostled around probably on hydraulics or something like that, it's incredible. Being in the Falcon was incredible. And when they pull the lever to jump to light speed, you feel every bit of the nostalgia and the coolness. Here you can see a little bit, the gunners are waiting for things to line up. They're pressing their button. They have to arm certain things. The pilots usually have to line up their shot. For the engineers, when the ship took a certain hit, you pressed whatever buttons or flipped whatever switches lined up. The faster you did it, the better your score. It's kind of an arcadey feel. You get a score at the end. The plot of it is that you're stealing coaxium for the Resistance. Very little plot. It's not like you're getting significant story beats, but it's just fun and well designed, and it feels equal parts Star Wars experience and theme park ride. As someone who doesn't really care about theme park rides anymore, I have no desire to go on a traditional roller coaster or whatever. I would have gone onto this thing back to back to back just to try every position, but it was a ton of fun, literally just to sit in there and to feel it and to hear it. The projection that you're seeing out the cockpit, it concaves around the cockpit. It feels like it has the depth. You're not just in like a drive-in movie theater kind of thing staring at a screen. You feel all of it. You don't feel wind like other 4D rides, which makes sense because you'd be in a pressurized capsule. So that made the falls and things like that feel a little less intense. So if you are somebody who maybe is prone to motion sickness or whatever, I don't think you really have to worry on this one as much as, say, Rise of the Resistance, or if you went to Universal and did the Harry Potter world. The Escape from Gringotts ride is quite a lot like the Rise of the Resistance ride in the feel of it. That's going to do more if you are sensitive to motion sickness than this would do. Keep in mind, this is me holding up the camera with one hand as I'm paying attention to the ride, trying to get into the experience and doing the buttons, doing my job in it, if you will. It is a bit on the rails. I think the kids being the pilots, it's not like they're going to crash in the first 10 seconds and they're like, all right, you just waited for however long the wait was. Get out of line, go do it again. You crashed. You get to do the whole thing. It'll hurt your score, but ultimately the score doesn't mean anything, so just have fun with it. Speaking of the waits, we went on a Monday in June, so there was no school. It's Disney World. It's always going to be busy. We did pay the extra for the Genie Plus, which lets you kind of do virtual waits where you can use your Genie Plus thing to book a ride. You schedule it out for when you want to go on, or when there's an opening, I should say, because when you want to go on is irrelevant for Disney World. There's too many people. When we went through, the ride was about an hour and a half, and because the Genie Plus, we waited maybe 10 minutes. We got to spend a lot of time in the Falcon because we went through the line right to the staging area. I felt the Genie Plus thing was worth it, but it was just my wife and I. If you're going with a family of 4, family of 5 or more, that's going to add up, so you might just have to get used to waiting in line. This is all from the beginning of Rise of the Resistance. Poe Dameron's X-Wing to scale with a talking BB-8 was so cool. This ride blew me away. Again, not really ride as much as experience. You're in it, you're feeling it. There is no Genie Plus for this. They do allow the option. Oh, that's another animatronic that I was talking about. Unfortunately, my video didn't come out great on him. So I didn't put it, but man, was it smooth and awesome, and he faces you and talks to you and is back to doing other things, and there's screens going off and you feel the movement. Anyway, back to the line. There is no Genie Plus for it. They do have a certain amount of slots that they sell. If you're going to pay the extra to skip the line, which again can get pricey if there's a lot of you, I think it was $15 a person at the time we did it, that stuff sold out in about the first 5 minutes of the park opening. There's not a ton to see while waiting in line. The pictures you're seeing were kind of towards the end. They could have done a little bit more to have the queue be interesting, but the biggest thing is they should have bathrooms, because we waited over 2 hours and that got painful. Here, when you walk out into this, it's a surprise what's coming, it's a surprise what's happening, and it was breathtaking to see the stormtroopers like that. That is a ride I did not even attempt to record, because you're moving from thing to thing and there's so much happening. One, I wanted to be in it. I don't want to be holding my camera. And two, I don't think you should watch it before you do it. Where the Smugglers Run is a little bit more arcadey, I didn't feel like I was really ruining things for people. Plus, you had the option to turn it off or skip ahead. Right here's the Droid Depot. This is one of the 2 big interactive shop kind of things you can do. There's this and the custom-built lightsaber. As I mentioned, I couldn't get into it. The Droid Depot we also booked about 3 months out, and slots were selling out. There was, I guess, some set aside for walk-up, but again, those filled in about the first 5 minutes. The conveyor belt brings out the pieces of the droid. You can pick an R2, an R5, or I'm sorry, not an R5, a CJ, I think it was called, or CR, it's right there on the screen, or a BB unit, of course. Again, I have all the original audio. I'll probably put this together in its own video so you can hear. She has this kind of little spiel with some cute little fun things. This is definitely a kid-centric thing. I felt a little bit silly doing it as you're just plugging 4 things into a main thing and using a screwdriver for half a second. But being in the shop was cool, and to at least get some customization on your droid was awesome. I feel like they could have done a lot more in the realm of customization, but the walls were surrounded with extra pieces you can buy, so that's kind of where the theme parkiness of it gets you. The droid building experience was $110. The droid is fully remote controlled, Bluetooth enabled. So it was cool. I like having it. It's a nice piece. It is plastic, but it does have a bit of heft to it, and it feels like it's higher quality than like I bought the remote control BB-8 to, chase my cats around with for like $50 when it came out a few years ago. This does feel much higher quality than that. With the add-ons, you're not going to get bored of it so much. I'm sure it's a lot more fun for kids. I did it more as a piece. It's sitting on my shelf. I really like it. It's cool. One really cool addition they did to it was the droids, because they're all Bluetooth enabled, when they put it in the box, or they had an upgraded backpack thing that was kind of a fun way to carry it, they leave it on because the Bluetooth will respond, one, to other droids, where they'll kind of look at each other and chirp and blink, but they'll also interact with things in the world, where if you go near maybe First Order kind of stuff, the droid acts a little bit scared and timid, where if you go near a rebellion thing, they might act a little bit excited. It was a really fun feature, and it adds some life to the world, and they do have a kind of droid test area where you can go out with their remote control and try it out, because they don't want these things just zipping all over the park. I'm sure people would be tripping over them and they getting kicked and everything like crazy. So this one's a great one for kids. If you don't absolutely want to do everything Galaxy's Edge has to offer, building it yourself, as I said, I felt a little bit silly doing it. The girl probably is tired of giving the spiel to 35-plus-year-old men when there's a bunch of kids waiting, but being in the shop was awesome, and it was a Star Wars thing to do. I had to do it. The droids do take AA batteries, which I thought was a little bit of a miss. Rechargeable battery would have been a lot better, because the batteries also don't last that long. We did that kind of in the middle of the stay at Galaxy's Edge, and by the time we left, the batteries were already dead. So I guess take that for what it is. This was in Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. There is another. There's an Ithorian right there. An Ithorian, and the smoothness and everything was amazing, and I try to get a shot from the side because as he's talking, the side mouth is moving, like in Book of Boba Fett that we saw. And this was a place to get cool memorabilia, really awesome statues, things in a lot of price points. The Kyber crystals are here, and the Sith and Jedi holocrons are here. And this is also where you can get the legacy lightsabers, the character lightsabers, not the custom built. That's next door down a little bit of stairs. Even if you don't plan on spending a bunch, go into this place, because the lighting, the domed ceiling, and I'm about to pan up so you can see the quality of the stuff in there, the collectibles. It's like its own Easter egg hunt. You could probably spend 2 hours in there pointing out things you've seen in the references to the movies that they're in. It's absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully this camera work doesn't make you dizzy. It was crowded. You're never rushed along, but you do kind of want to keep moving because there's a lot to do. We actually had to come back here because I thought I was going to be able to do a walk-in for the custom saber, but it filled up before I got there. The people did tell me to check back, so it was a gamble. But we waited again to get some of the legacy lightsabers, and those are quality pieces as well. I got a Vader and a Kylo Ren. They're metal. They have some heft to them. I didn't buy the blades. I like displaying the hilts. This is technically not Galaxy's Edge. It's Star Tours, which has been around Disney forever. It was updated a little bit after the prequels. It's still a really fun experience. The wait was, I think it was like 20 minutes, and I did solo rider. My wife had no interest, so I got in right away. I waited 3 minutes. So Star Tours, right outside, also really worth doing, and that's where you can get some more merchandise that is more more Star Wars themed than Galaxy's Edge themed. This, we went back at night, night is kind of a generous term. The park closed at 9 p.m. and in the summer in Florida really wasn't that dark, and the camera did a shockingly good job picking up details so it doesn't look as night as it was. But we went back the next day just to see it all lit up. And here's another little tip. If there's something you want to do or buy, go like an hour, hour and a half before closing. You're probably not going to get into the rides if the lines are still insanely long, but we went back and it was a relative ghost town for Disney World. We could have walked right up and gotten food. We could have walked right up and gotten the blue or green milk. And there was like maybe a 5-minute wait to get into Doc-Ondars. So well worth it if you're around and you have, say, the multi-park pass, or maybe go back to your hotel for lunch or something and then come back here. But just being there, I can't reiterate enough how cool that felt. I mean, going back the next day when I didn't think I'd be back there for years, it just felt awesome to see it again. And there was none of the rush because we had done the activities, so I just literally walked around and took it all in and got these great pictures that were at least at dusk, even though it's not coming across that clearly. But man, is the place cool. Just, again, the detail. I mean, look at the garbage cans. They had custom manhole covers. Everything, every little detail is there. An R2 head being used as a light. I didn't even notice it the first time through. It just knocked it out of the park. Near the cantina, there's radio transmissions going off that would be if you tuned into a radio station somewhere in the Star Wars universe. I guess on Batuu it would be. Just amazing. There's the blue and green milk stand. That's the line at 8 o'clock at night. It was one guy there. It was really not bad. The Kylo Ren shuttle being all lit up was very cool. The Falcon lit up was very cool. There's these signposts and things. I mean, I'm sure you could go through and translate the Arabesh, but sorry if this is just me rambling for a while. This is a totally experimental video. I was just so psyched to be there and to sit here and rewatch it. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get back there. If I lived in Orlando, it would be dangerous because I'd just be calling into work every other day to go and just hang out in Galaxy's Edge. Oh, sorry, I kind of have a duplication there. I guess, you know what? Not sorry there's a duplication. That's a life-size Millennium Falcon. Take it in. I did not think I'd ever see anything. The only way to see that prior to Galaxy's Edge was to be invited to a film set when they were making a movie that had the Falcon on screen, and even then they probably didn't have a life-size full creation half the time. That's a pod race engine cooking the food. Oh, this also is outside Galaxy's Edge, but we were there for Disney's 50th anniversary, so these were new statues put up in Hollywood Studios. I thought it was a really cool thing to end the video on because, I mean, look at them. The legacy of Star Wars is amazing. Hopefully this video was interesting. Hopefully this method of doing it was fun. Thanks.